Hey, crystal lovers, Ashley here with the Love and Light School of Crystal Therapy, and I am super excited to be sharing a little bit today about how to dress a crystal ritual candle. So this is a really cool, fun, different way to work with your crystals and incorporate them into your daily practice. So dressing a crystal ritual candle for my altar is one of my favorite ways to create even more magic with my crystals and something that's a little bit out of the ordinary. Candle magic has a really long history of use across the globe. Think candles in religious practice and ceremony, candles being used for prayer or for healing, and even the amazing wish-granting candles that sit atop our birthday cakes. So by dressing a candle with oils and herbs and crystals, you turn that candle into a tool for making magic. It becomes more than just a candle. It really becomes a vessel for the energy and the intention that you'd like to bring into your ritual or magic work. So before you begin the process of dressing a candle for ritual, you need to set an intention for the energy that you'd like to call in. So I suggest that you focus on just one word for your intention, something like love or abundance or magic or intuition or well-being, something that has just a simple and clear focus. This tends to work the best. You'll also need to gather some supplies for your candle dressing. You'll need a small tea light candle. You'll also need a candle of your choice for your ritual candle that you're going to dress. So I love these small ritual altar candles. These work perfect in my opinion. They're a good size. The burn time or length that they'll burn is good for usually most types of healing or magic or prayer or energy work. You can also find them in a huge variety of colors. So when you're selecting your candle, it's great if you can choose a color that corresponds to your intention. And on this week's blog post and podcast, I will be sharing a freebie that you can download. It's my guide to color magic, and it shares the different colors of candles along with those intentions or keywords that they correspond to, and some crystals that pair really well with them. So if you need a little help associating your candle color with the intention that you've set for your ritual candle, then definitely be sure to head over to loveandlightschool.com/blog. Check out this week's post all about dressing a crystal ritual candle and get that free guide to color magic. I'll also be sure to post a link to that in the comments below this video after the live stream. So when you're choosing that candle, after you've selected a color that corresponds to your intention, you'll also want to consider the size of your candle. So you can use anything you have on hand. You don't have to use a special color or a special type of candle, but really these little ritual candles work great. You can find them just about anywhere. We do carry them at my crystal shop, Mimosa Books and Gifts, over at mimosaspirit.com. If you need somewhere to find them, you can even get them in packs with multiple colors so that you always sort of have a few on hand for whatever you need, and they're really affordable. You'll also need to make this a crystal ritual candle. You'll need a crystal, right? You'll need a small stone. And I love the tiny little crystal chips for this. So I have a ton of bottles of these with all different little chips in them. So I always have a few different types of stones on hand, because you'll want to make sure that the type of crystal you're choosing corresponds to that intention that you've set for your ritual candle, just like you did with the color of the candle that you've chosen. You'll also might want to consider, and this is an optional step here, having some dried herbs or flowers of your choice. Again, making sure that they correspond with your intention. So having like some lavender flower, some rose petals, Anything that is safe to burn and that you are not allergic to will work for this. You want to make sure that the pieces of those dried herbs or flowers aren't too large, or they won't adhere to the surface of your candle very well. So you want to grind them up a little bit, but they don't need to be pulverized to dust. If you think of the size of the pieces of dried herbs that are in your kitchen spice rack bottles, that's kind of a good guideline. That's a good size to aim for. You'll also need a small to medium size, sort of shallow ceramic or glass dish. Just make sure that whatever you choose, your candle will fit in it. When in doubt, a dinner plate works really well for this and is super easy to clean up. So just having something that you can use to sort of catch some of the mess of the oils and herbs that you'll use to dress your candle is great. Speaking of oils, you'll need a few drops of a carrier oil. So something like almond, avocado, jojoba, and in a pinch, you can even use some olive oil. It works great. In fact, this is what I end up using most of the time myself because I always have it on hand and it's really convenient. Optionally, you can choose to add a drop or two of your favorite essential oil to that carrier oil to add a little bit of fragrance. If you choose to use an essential oil, because we're using such a small amount of carrier oil, you really only do need 1 or 2 drops. And it's important, again, to choose an essential oil that matches or aligns with the intention or purpose for your ritual candle. And you also want to choose one that you're not allergic to. That's really important. It's also helpful to have a cotton swab or an eyedropper for applying the oil to your candle. But if you don't have either of those things, don't worry. You can just use your finger. It's a little bit more messy. So a cotton swab works great. It's kind of my favorite tool to use. It adds like just enough oil without adding too much. So it's a good thing to have on hand. And optionally, you may want to have some sort of sharp, thin implement like a push pin or a paper clip to carve your intention word on your candle. A little thumbtack or push pin works great for this. Finally, you'll need a lighter or some matches for lighting your tea light candle, which we're actually going to use to dress our ritual candle and to light your ritual candle once you're ready to work with it. So let's go through the step-by-step process of how to create this candle. You're going to start by using your lighter or your matches to light your tea light candle. And this gives you a hands-free working flame that you can use to create your ritual candle. And it's a little bit safer than trying to use a lighter or match for what we'll do with our ritual candle, because that uses up one of your hands. It's also just a little bit more complicated and it's not stable. If you can light a separate little tea light candle, even if it's a candle you've used before, that's fine. It's on a stable, steady surface and it leaves both of your hands free for dressing your ritual candle. So once you've lit that little tea light candle, you can take your ritual candle and somewhere along the body of the candle, not too close to the end that you're holding and not too close to the wick because you don't want to light the wick of your candle yet, you will just hold the candle over the flame of that tea light. I usually aim for about the middle or somewhere in the top third to soften the wax on the side of the candle a little bit. The reason we want to do this is how we create our crystal ritual candle. After the wax has been a little bit softened or melted, being very careful not to burn yourself on the hot wax, you'll take one of your little crystal chips and press it into that softened wax to embed the stone into the candle. So doing this not only attaches the crystal to your candle, but it actually embeds your intention into the candle with that crystal acting as an amplifier of your intention. So as you press that stone into your candle, hold that intention, that one word intention that you created, again, whether that was intuition or healing or love, press that into the candle and hold that intention in mind. As soon as you are done with this step, make sure to extinguish the flame on your tea light candle so that you don't have an open flame when you don't need one. You also, again, want to make sure not to light the wick of your ritual candle yet, and just make sure that you give the crystal time to set in that wax. So after you've extinguished your tea light candle, maybe just step away for a minute or two, or do something else while the wax hardens up and firms up on your ritual candle. Then just give the crystal a little rub to make sure it really is embedded in there. If it's not, you can relight that tea light candle and just kind of put the ritual candle into the flame of the tea light a little bit to soften the wax around that crystal chip and make sure that it really is adhered well into the wax. Next, after your ritual candle's completely cool, you can use that thin, sharp implement. Again, I like using a thumbtack for this, or a bent paper clip works fine too, to carve your intention word into the side of your candle. So if it was healing or intuition or love, you just use that instrument to write the word, etch it into the side of the candle. This is optional. You don't have to do this, but I think it adds a little bit of extra symbolic energy into the candle and really helps set your intention. If you've chosen to incorporate some essential oil into your carrier oil, you can take just about a teaspoon or so of your carrier oil in your dish, add the carrier oil to your dish, and then put just 1 or 2 drops of your chosen essential oil into your carrier oil and mix them together really well. Again, this is where that cotton swab comes in really handy. You can also totally do this without essential oil. You don't need to use the essential oil, and you really only need to do this step with the oil if you plan on using some herbs, because the oil will help the herbs adhere or stick to the sides of the candle. So once you've mixed up your carrier oil with your essential oil, if you're including it, you can use your eyedropper or your cotton swab to lightly coat the sides of your candle with the oil. So you can put your candle right in your dish and pick up a bit of that oil on your cotton swab or on your finger if you don't have one, and just rub it over the sides of the candle to coat the entire outside of the candle. You do want to keep the oil away from the wick of your candle. You don't want that wick to soak up a ton of oil. Just put a little bit of oil on the outside of the candle. And while you're doing this, again, hold that intention, that one word intention in mind. And this is one of the reasons I really like working with the cotton swab. It adds just enough oil to make sure that your herbs will stick, but it doesn't make the whole candle drippy and wet with oil. You don't want that. So after you've oiled your candle, it's time to add your chosen dried herbs or flowers. So you'll take just about a half teaspoon or teaspoon of your dried herbs and sprinkle them over the surface of your candle while it's in the dish. And then if your dish has a nice flat bottom, you can roll your candle in those extra herbs to make sure that it is picking up all of those little bits of dried herb or flower, and they're sticking to the outside of the candle. And again, as you're doing this, as you're adding the herbs, hold that intention in mind, because each thing that you're adding to this dressed candle is adding more intention and another layer of energy and magic to your candle as a magical tool. So now that you have a dressed ritual candle that's ready to be used, you can use it now for your intended purpose, placing it in a fireproof container on your altar, somewhere in your sacred space, away from any drafty windows and away from anything that would be combustible that could catch fire, and only burn them under your supervision. Of course, make sure anytime you're working with an open flame, that candle is attended. And if you're not going to work with your candle right away, you want to save it for later. Maybe you make a batch of these. Some wax paper or parchment paper works great. you can actually just take your ritual candle, roll it up in a bit of that parchment, and then tie around it with a little piece of string. This will keep the oil and the herbs from getting on anything else, and then it'll also make sure that they stay adhered to your candle. Just roll it up nice and tight, tie it with a little string, and put it away to save for later. So that is it for this little step-by-step tutorial on how to dress a crystal ritual candle. I hope you will find it helpful. This is something that I used to do all the time, dressing candles. And one day I accidentally melted the side of one of my candles, and I wanted to kind of cover up the imperfection. And I thought, what can I do? And I thought, oh, I'll add a little crystal chip. It'll be really beautiful. And ever since then, I've been adding at least one little stone to all of my dress candles because it just added this great quality of energy and really helped anchor my intention into the candle for use. So I hope that you will give this a try. And if you enjoyed this and you want to check out some other little crystal rituals that you can do with your stones each and every day, next week, starting Monday, May 1st, I am offering a free class series called 3 Keys to Unlocking Your Crystal Magic. You can sign up for that at the link that is in the description for this video. There's a little link to go register for that free video series. It's only available for a short time, so make sure that you go register to get access to that as soon as it's released next week, Monday. I will be sharing crystal rituals for the morning, crystal rituals for the evening, and some crystal rituals that you can do anytime. Some of them are so simple and can be really easily and quickly incorporated into things you're probably already doing in your day-to-day life. And others are more for some special occasions, maybe something like creating this crystal ritual candle that you would use for something specific and special and exciting. So there are tons of little mini trainings available for you, again, starting next week. At the link in the description of this video, you can click to register now. I hope to see you in class next week. And if you give this a try, I would love to hear all about it. Post in the comments below. Let me know about your experience with candle magic, or feel free to reach out to my Instagram DMs at Love and Light School. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me. Until next time, I'm Ashley Leavy of the Love and Light School. Crystal blessings.